Hi, everybody. A bit of a busy morning here as we've added just at the last minute. Very pleased to have Mark Michelson joining us live via phone from up in Idaho, where he's going to fill us in on this increasingly difficult Hurricane Ian. Nice to have you all with us. John Emmett saying hi from over in Weymouth. Gordon Smith from Denmark. Ted Ryman from Cape Town. Bill Haynes checking in from Independence, Missouri. Pedro Foiling Sailor down in Oz. Ed Worley here in California. Christopher Gillingham, Leamington in the UK, as we're going to get this one off the dock in just about 10 seconds.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, hi everybody. Welcome to show number 555. And Julie, I don't know if that is some kind of an auspicious number or not. I didn't even check. 666 I know is auspicious in certain places.
Right. Well, 555 can't be all bad.
Can't be, but that's our show today. Hard to believe how fast they do go. Welcome. It's we got an action-packed show, but we're also kind of laid back and relaxed. I'm just back from the Stag Cruise.
Love that
the
shirt.
Staggering Cruise. I'm wearing my official shirt. I think that's the Tinsley Island flag, the St. Francis Yacht Club flag. Delighted to have you all with us. Folks from all over the place joining us. Stingrays up in Seattle. Greg Phillips in Halifax. They've just gotten the tail end up there of the other hurricane. Steve Ross, good afternoon from San Diego. Hi, Steve, long time. John Schaefer from the boat. We're going to have Schaefer on the show pretty soon. Guy Briere, who was with us at Stag Cruise. It was great to see you up there, Guy. Don't call me Guy Briere, and the Commodore of Southern Yacht Club and some of his other mates from that esteemed club. The second oldest club in the country. Peter Taylor in New York. David James from sunny Sausalito on the other side of the bridge. And yeah, I'm looking a little Hawaiian today. John Emmett, Guy Briere has one of these shirts as well. And a warm welcome to all of you as we get this one underway. That, of course, is the pre-start shot we like to use from the Castle Cove Sailing Club, courtesy of John Emmett in Great Britain. And this is the scene yesterday and today in at Davis Island Yacht Club, Tampa, Florida, where they are taking out the rigs in the bigger boats. And we're delighted to have that slide. We thought we might get a video from Bill Wingrove, our FOSI, who's almost always on here. But they're a bit busy right now, pulling rigs and getting sandbags and so on, getting ready. That photo courtesy of another FOSI, Emily Wagner, we would say auf Deutsch, but Wagner probably here in the States. And I want to invite in now our esteemed FOSI, longtime friend, our weather guru, who was one of the first people ever, Julie, to be on the show, Mark Michelson, who's since moved from SoCal up to lovely Idaho.
So
Mark,
he could be near the ocean.
well, he can be near the ocean. He can be away from the crime and the taxes here in California. Mark, welcome.
Oh, good to be here, Tom. Thank you for having me.
So let's look at, you want to say anything in prep before I go to this first slide?
No, not really. Just that, Ian emerged off the Cuban coast as a already dangerous Category 3. Beautiful satellite signature. The last test of barometric pressure was 955 millibars and dropping. As you look at the satellite, both the infrared and the visible, it's just a gorgeous hurricane, which is obviously bad news for anybody from kind of Charlotte Harbor up to the Tampa Bay area.
Mark, you called this yesterday and early this morning that it was going to be probably a Cat 4 instead of Cat 3, that it was going to slow down perhaps and turn right. And now I'm seeing the NOAA and some of the other officials as I put on this second slide, this one with the very well-developed eye just north of the coast, the northwest coast of Cuba. And now I'm going to run to this next slide where you sent me just a minute ago. It's actually the GIF, but it's not moving. This looks like a big one and a bad one. Is that true?
Yeah, it's got a pretty big diameter. The severe winds are only about 70 miles across, but the storm in general is nearly 500 miles across. Has rain bands that are already extending well into Key West and coming up into the Naples area shortly. The real danger from this one, it's got to be storm surge because, of course, the peninsula is very low-lying throughout. but also it's going to slow down and dump copious amounts of rain. It may not be quite on the Harvey scale, which came into the Texas area last year, but this is going to be significant in that there'll be storm surge coming from the southeast and then heavy rains trying to exit the peninsula to the southwest. And where the two meet in those very lightly sloped tributaries, there's going to be tremendous flooding. There'll be wind damage and other issues, but really the amount of rain this is going to drop once it stalls and the amount of storm surge that's going to come in again through that Port Charlotte and probably up to the Sarasota, maybe Tampa area is going to be historic.
I'm just going live to a webcam from the Key West Harbor where it's already blowing obviously very hard and raining. It's been raining since I grabbed this webcam. So this is live shot for those of you watching. Mark can't see this because he's on by phone, but this is the Key West Harbor. They call it the PTZ webcam, meaning pan, tilt, and zoom, a technical television term. But what are they going to get in Key West first, Mark?
Well, it's pretty heavy rain squall starting now. I've got friends that live there who checked in with me about an hour ago, and she said, yep, the rain has started. The grounds are already saturated, and the gusts are into the 30s.
Yeah, it looks every bit of that here on the webcam. Should we talk? I go to the next slide, Mark, and we'll look at what the projected timing and direction of this storm, Hurricane Ian, is over the next one.
Sure. Yeah, and the real question is how much of a right turn is this storm going to take or not take? And, we can forecast these things and give it our best guess, but the reality is Category 3 and especially Category 4 storms go where they want, not where we tell them we think they should go. And so this one looks to be gaining strength. There's really nothing standing in its way for the next 24 hours. I see it making it to a low-end Category 4 until some southwesterly shear and some dry air from a front that's now exiting the mid-Atlantic swoops in from the southwest and may diminish the power of the storm, but it may be too late at that point. That's sometime between Wednesday night and Thursday morning that those inhibiting factors come into play. Between now and then, no, it's all systems go. It should be a powerful hurricane, and anybody in the path should take it seriously.
So are you still thinking it's going to go in at Fort Myers, south of Tampa, St. Pete, Sarasota? Or
I think between Fort Myers and Sarasota is probably the most likely landfall. But again, that's my best guess in Category 3 up, upper end and low end 4s. They do what they like. I'm watching a real-time satellite view right now, and it's taking a nice big wobble to the left. If you're watching this thing in real time or near real time, you can expect to see those wobbles throughout the path. Take the overall average and certainly don't focus on just the center of the storm, but rather 100 miles either side of the eye is going to receive significant impact. You should plan for it, and if you have the opportunity to leave and you're in a low-lying area that's been designated as an evacuation zone, you should go.
What's the tidal implication? Do you know offhand when high tide is and when is this likely is that going to correlate with landfall?
I have not looked at the tides yet. I really want to get a better feel for where it's going to land, but the Port Charlotte area, 8 to 12 feet of surge, possibly higher. I think that 5 to 8 feet has been revamped for the Tampa Bay area, dropped just a little bit. I know Jim Cantori checked into a hotel in Punta Gorda, so if you trust Captain Thunder Snow, that's where he thinks it's going to be.
Who's that? The Weather Channel guy?
Yeah, that's the Weather Channel guy. It tends to try and sell generators and plywood through Home Depot, but that's who sponsors him. I can't blame them. They do tend to hype it up just a little bit. But again, Fort Myers up to the Sarasota area, that's my best guess for a landfall. But because of the angle of the coast in that area and the direction of the hurricane, a slight move to the left will have a huge implication on where it comes ashore.
Mark, they're saying a few minutes before we went to air, I heard that they're saying this is the worst storm on the West Coast, at least, of Florida since 1921. And of course, a lot of people are new in Florida. People have been moving to Florida in droves from New York and California and other places because of the relatively low regulation on COVID and the low taxes, no state income tax, no death tax. So a lot of people are moving down there, fed up with other states. Worst since 1921. They were talking about 12 to 15 storm surge in the Fort Myers area. You still and 100+ mile an hour Cat 4 winds when I last saw it. Does that add up with you?
Yeah, it may be a little bit north of that. And, apparently people have a very short memory because in 2005, we had a number of storms come through the Port Charlotte area, including I think it was Charlie came through as a Category 4. So, people want to bang the drum that things are getting worse. No, there have been serious hurricanes in this part of the world going back as far as, anybody's been keeping records, including the great hurricane of 1933 in the Keys. That was far more devastating than anything we're seeing right now. But that being all said, we have this brilliant technology called satellite, and we're able to see and forecast these things and take a look at them long before we ever could before. And the written information available on catastrophic hurricanes is really just over the last 100 years, and of course they've been going on since millennia. So I'm going to be patient, watch and see what happens. I think a top end Category 3, bottom end Category 4, if it ends up making landfall prior to, say, midnight Wednesday. After that, we should see some degradation based on dry air and wind shear.
Mark Michelson, thank you very much. Julie, any questions? Anybody asking? I know that Bill Wingrove will probably get an after-action report from Bill and from Emily Wagner.
Gordon Smith says it's not moving very fast, is it?
Slow moving, so the flooding.
10 miles an hour.
Go ahead.
Yeah, 10 miles an hour. 10 miles an hour right now due north, expected to turn to the north-northeast later tonight.
Somebody made a comment, Bill Haynes in Missouri said Ian got cigars and rum from Cuba, so he is ready to party while heading for the Busch Gardens in Tampa. God. Well, it's a dangerous one. And again, I'm afraid Leslie Barton is on. She says, I'm near Charlotte Harbor, Mark. What are you saying for Charlotte Harbor?
Pretty much the same as we've been talking about, that whole Fort Myers and Charlotte Harbor area, 8 to 12 feet of surge possible. And copious amounts of rain, and really where it makes a right turn is going to make a big difference. I do think that if this comes in Sarasota South, Tampa Bay is really going to get spared what could have been truly catastrophic, as the winds will come out of the north or the northeast for them, and that should do a better job of reducing storm surge. It won't mean there'll be zero, but certainly better than 8 to 12 feet, more likely in the 4 to 6 foot range.
Mark, one other question.
Sorry.
There's a question here, actually a comment from quite smart comment from Chris Dewar.
Yeah.
These righties we keep seeing, meaning the little right wobbles we keep seeing in the UK and ICANN models, are showing it popping off the east coast of Florida and turning into Georgia, South Carolina. That's concerning for.
He's right.
Is that right?
Yeah, he is correct. I mean, if you buy the big right turn and it emerges south of Jacksonville, it hops out into the Gulf Stream and then comes back in somewhere just to the south of Charleston, South Carolina. The question is, will it reemerge as a greatly diminished cyclone? And the answer is probably yes. There's a lot of dry air and a tremendous amount of southwest shear that's going to affect the storm Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And we'll see if it can recover and get its feet back underneath itself before it lands again in South Carolina. If all of the prognostication that far out comes to fruition. But right now, 96 hours is about the maximum envelope that I'm willing to trust as the forecast goes.
Well, Mark, you've been spot on any number of times we've talked to you about hurricanes and other weather phenomenon, but it's great to have you with us, and we are deeply appreciative. We'll keep posted. In fact, Mark posts on his own Facebook page, but I usually put them on the Sailing Illustrated page. So if there's anything that changes drastically in the next 24 hours, do ping me, and I'll be sure to get up so all the FOSI friends of Sailing Illustrated, such as yourself, can see it. There was, Krasimir is on. Krasimir Naumov, who's Bulgarian, he said, replying to Ed Worley, we had a 70 knots hurricane in Bulgaria during the Nationals. Best you pray for good marina and a good boat to lean on. Yeah, it's a sad sight after any kind of a windstorm in a marina where there's just not time or the place, unless you've got days of preparation, days of advance warning. Gordon Smith finally saying it is great having Mark as our own weather guy. It is indeed, Julia, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Really nice. Marcus, thank you very much. Good to talk with you this morning. We'll talk to you
Thank you
soon.
for having me on, and I hope that everyone in the area is safe and emerges from the storm in one piece along with their boats.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah.
Talk soon.
Cheers.
Julia, it is. I think Gordon Smith is exactly right. We're so lucky to have.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. And he understands what our audience is concerned about.
Exactly, and he understands boats and yachting, and he is a weather guru. I don't know those of you. He's got really two businesses. His wife has a business where they make dry UV. They make yachting clothing, and he's very good at. Some crouton calls up at the like John Sangmeister or our crew on, or Jeffrey Peterson. All use him, as does everybody else. Out here in California for clothing for their crew shirts and that sort of stuff, and because he's one of these guys that we know will perform, so you wait till the last minute and then he rushes around, and he and his wife get the stuff out. They got great sources. But also, he does a lot of weather modeling, weather forecasting, routing, WX routing for teams, Transpac and up and down the coast and all over the world for that matter. Terrific guy. So on to something a little happier, and that is where I've been with this shirt, and we told you about it. That's why we didn't have our regular show on Friday. The St. Francis Yacht Club, Julia's home club. This is a beautiful shot from a couple weeks ago. You see the bridge in the upper left corner, and can't quite see Alcatraz off to the right. But the esteemed St. Francis Yacht Club has annually, has been doing so for 65 years, has a yachtsman's retreat. They have a women's cruise, a women's retreat that last weekend, the weekend before, and then the men go up there to what's called Tinsley Island. It's up in the Delta, about 65 miles north and east of here, of the Central Bay, almost up in direction Sacramento, the state capital, in fact, up the San Joaquin and the Sacramento rivers. And it was the 65th edition of the Stag Cruise, and people think, well, this is some kind of a big drinking and eating fest. Well, it is that. But that's not the purpose. It's really all about yachting camaraderie, and you run into a lot of friends you haven't seen. You run into people that maybe even from the yacht club, Julia, that you see once a year.
Right.
And then you don't get to spend any time with them. You might see them in the restaurant or in the bar. And then people from all over the world are invited or come as guests, because it is all about camaraderie and about trading news and information. There are talks from famously good yachtsmen. Stan Honey gave a talk. Paul Kayard zoomed in and gave an update on the Olympics, and on and on and on. And then there's some national security guys. The guy who just retired, Admiral Hyman, I can't remember his last name, who was the #1 Navy SEAL in this country. He just retired 24 days ago. And they call him Trident 1, Trident being the symbol of the Navy SEALs. And he spent his last year refocusing that group for the next threats. And he says, without doubt, the threats are Russia and especially China. He's really worried about what's going on in the Straits, and the Straits of Taiwanese Straits. But forget about all that. It's really about camaraderie and having a great time together with people. Here's just one example. This is Vice Commodore Bo Froelic's boat, Mayan, the classic yacht that I've run pictures on here before. And look at the people on here. Some of you will know these names. Many of you will know some of them. Bo Wheeler, there left to right. Lance Burke, who's a terrific sailor here from the club. Kevin Boland, likewise. The Wizard there in foreground with the white hat and the glasses. That's Bill Lee. I guess they all have white hats and glasses.
Yeah.
Fastest Fun, Bill Lee of the Santa Cruz yacht design fames. Then in the back right, upper right, is Stan Honey. And Dan Nolan, who's the esteemed former offshore director from U.S. Sailing, when it was USYRU. And this photo was taken by Bo. So I thought I'd stick him in. This is Bo on the right, receiving a trophy for his yacht Mayan a couple of years ago from another FOSI, Staff Commodore Ken Glidewell. And Julia, I spent a lot of time with both of them up there, as well as most of everybody else on that boat, but as you do. But Ken is going to come on, as you've suggested, and he is going to tell us what it was like to be Commodore of a major yacht club during the 2020 and some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that they went through to duck and cover with respect to COVID.
But they learned a lot, and I'm sure other people do too. But it'll be a chance to.
Yeah, in fact, Ken told me that one of the great things that helped him and St. Francis was the connection through the IC, the International Council of Yacht Clubs, but also just the the Commodores that they had met at the Stag Crews over the years from other clubs, they
Right.
were able to call up friends in clubs and say, hey, how are you dealing with this? Then they watched Andrew McIrvin. Of course, Andrew was at the cruise
Yes.
as a guest this year. He'd been a few years back, but he came again this year as a VIP guest. So they'd seen him on the show, and of course, we're picking his brain up there about what's going on next. But I digress as usual. Ken Glidewell there on the left will join us, and Vice Commodore of St. Francis, Bo Froelich, is a hell of a guy and become quite a good friend. He will be on here too in due course. We're going to talk about classic yachts and classic yacht racing, things that are going on. Now, during this Stag Cruise on Thursday night, the opening night, Commodore Pete Gilmore, the Commodore, introduces the visiting Commodores as the VIP guests from other clubs. And I'd put this slideshow together for them as they were introducing the Commodores. We made it into a bit of a Socratic method, you know how I like to do this. And Pete Gilmore, our Commodore, Commodore Gilmore said to the whole crowd of 500 guys assembled after dinner Thursday night under the lanai at the dining area, he said, now, here's the deal. I'm going to show you a yacht club. You tell me what club this is, and then we'll introduce the VIP Commodore, the VIP guest, who's the Commodore from that club. And Julia, it worked really well.
Oh, I'm glad. I knew it was coming, and yeah.
Can you ID this club, Julia? Can anyone ID that club, other than those of you who are members? Yeah, Gordon Smith. I did say the guy with white hat. I said white hat and glasses. They all had white. I looked at it. Hi, Matthias Collins is joining us. Yeah. We did 50 shows on the pandemic. Yes, you did, John Emmett. And it was also very helpful, as John was throughout. Anybody ID that club and their Commodore? You can see the Burgee. It's the only black and orange Burgee, as far as we know, in the yacht racing world. That is Balboa Yacht Club down in Newport Beach, California. And Balboa Yacht Club has a black and orange Burgee. Jersey. Burgee, Julia, why?
I don't know.
Because the guys who founded it were from Princeton University. They were Princetonians.
Oh.
Balboa Yacht Club.
I thought I was connecting Halloween.
No, it could be. Roger Lockhart got it. He says, yeah, BYC. And next, I don't know, Ed Worley, the answer to your question. Anyone know? That's from a different angle. Probably you all know the club, but not many people. Yeah, Steve Ross says BYC, my own club. But how about this club, this next one? And it's from a different angle than most people remember.
Is it Chicago?
It is. Well done, Julia.
Oh.
There's Chicago Yacht Club. We had their Commodore there as well. And then this is representative of a club that doesn't really have a clubhouse, but it's an esteemed club. Their current Commodore is Chris Odorowski, who's also a FOSI, been on the show a couple times, and he's coming on because this club is celebrating their 100th year this year, their centennial, and Commodore Chris Odorowski is coming on representing it's a little obscure, Cruising Club of America. It's a nice, look at that, it's a nice cruising boat, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. I think up in Maine, by the way. And another club that doesn't particularly have a clubhouse, so I stuck this photo in. And that, of course, is our good friend, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin, who is representing the International Maxi Association. He's their Secretary General. So it was nice to have Andrew there as well. Now, this is a club that many of you will recognize, maybe by the Burgee, but it's a photo you rarely see, and it's a real photo. It's not photoshopped.
Because you can't usually see the mountains.
Exactly. People thought this was in the Alps. Where's a club like that in the Alps? Is that Geneva or something? Anybody venture a guess? Believe it or not, that is the Long Beach Yacht Club.
Is it?
Yeah, Ed Worley got it on a particularly beautiful, there's probably Santa Ana, an easterly dry breeze in this, in January, February, when there's some snow up there on the San Gabriel Mountains. Ed, is that right? Are those the San Gabriels? Up north of the club, north and kind of east? Fantastic. There's a club, Julia, you'll recognize. Has the best cigar bar in the world. It's not in Kowloon. It's not on the Kowloon side.
Oh, yeah, Hong Kong, yeah.
That is Royal Hong Kong Yacht Club. And then
That's
Andrew,
a beautiful club, too.
It is, yeah. David James, who used to be a member, lived in Hong Kong for a while. He recognized it immediately, as did Facebook user, who I assume is once again, Gordon Smith got it. Who's Facebook user? Is that James Bland? Okay. Andrew was also representing this club. He's a former admiral, Andrew McIrvin, that is, of the Royal Ocean Racing Club, 20 St. James Place.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. David James still is a member at the Royal Hong Kong. Yep, Facebook user is J. Frederick Bland.
Yes.
There's a club many of you will have stayed in. The Commodore was there. Nice guy, a lot of fun with him and interesting conversations. And that club I've stayed in, and because of their reciprocal with New York Yacht Club, stayed in that club more times than any of in beds there, I think, than any other place other than my own bed. David James, when you leave Hong Kong, you can buy a lifetime non-resident membership. Well, that's nice. That's probably smart especially with the expats.
Mm-hmm.
That, of course, is the Royal Thames Yacht Club, 60 Knightsbridge in London. And
I didn't recognize it.
I'll go back and look at it again. It's a beautiful entrance. Yeah, David James got it. Royal Thames Yacht Club, 60 Knightsbridge. Then this club, you can see the Canadian flag, perhaps, on the yard arm. Anybody get that one? The Socratic method. And the guys are in the audience shouting out, "Oh, I know that club. It's Royal Victoria." No, it's not Royal Victoria. "Oh, it's Royal Canadian." No, it's not. Everybody's half in the back shouting out the club names. But it was surprising how many people knew which club. That's Royal Vancouver. That's Royal Van. They have Austin Yacht Club has cabins. I didn't know that, James Bland. Austin Yacht Club has cabin. Maybe next time I'm in Austin, I'll see if you can arrange a cabin for us.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Royal Vancouver Yacht Club, and that kind of wraps up that segment. But it was good fun, Julia, and I do think that camaraderie between those Commodores, yes. And then, of course, everybody goes home thinking, our club ought to be able to put on something like this.
Yes.
And clubs do have stag cruises.
Yeah.
Balboa Yacht Clubs is this coming weekend. They go out to Catalina Island to their station. And
yeah.
Newport Harbor has one. Of course, New York Yacht Club has its annual cruise, and I'm sure any number of your other clubs do have similar cruises. But they go back with all the music and the entertainment. There's nonstop music and entertainment. There's a big member show on Friday night. It's really good fun. Yes. Professional musicians, amateur musicians. And then they go home and realize what a logistical nightmare it is to put the thing on.
It is.
But it's great.
Practice makes perfect.
It does. Now here's one stooge and three heroes, three VIPs. As we were leaving St. Francis early Thursday morning to go up to the island, this is a FOSI fest, and they put the VIPs up on a huge, beautiful, mega yacht, beautiful boat, and take them up. And Paul Blank, our dear friend from Balboa Yacht Club, Commodore Paul Blank, and then Andrew, myself, of course, and then Andrew McIrvin, along with Chris Otorowski, the famously good Commodore up at Seattle. He's a member of New York, and now the current Commodore of the Cruising Club of America, and all three of them are going to be back on. They've been on the show, and they're all going to come back on the show soon enough. Now, Julie,
they're all wonderful people.
They all are, and you saw them here. Yeah. They were here at the Beach Street Yacht Club.
They
all
were.
Three of them, Wednesday night, when the famous Jim Sailstrom, who has played with Dolly Parton for years and years, he played with Don Denver. Not Bob Denver, John Denver.
Yeah.
Bob Denver was on Gilligan's Island. John Denver, the famous musician.
He did the Legacy Band for.
He still does.
Yeah.
In fact, when the state of Colorado made Rocky Mountain High the state song, he went and played it because John.
Good morning.
John Denver had died in that plane crash in Monterey. So, but these guys were great. And Julia.
Yes, sir.
I bear gifts.
Uh-oh.
First of all, this is from Otto, as we call Chris Otorowski, for the Beach Street Yacht Club.
Oh, yay.
To the Commodore.
It's gorgeous.
100 years. The Cruising Club of America is their special centennial flag.
We'll make sure it has a grand place.
Right here in the club. Then Tim Murphy with Sheila McCurdy. A lot of you will know Sheila McCurdy have done this book. Maybe I'll put it on camera one here. It'd be a little more interesting. Adventurous Use of the Sea, Formidable Stories from a Century of Sailing from the Cruising Club of America. That is a present of this centennial book, Julia.
For the library.
For the library here at the beach, in growing library.
Yes.
Also from Chris Otorowski. And then Paul Blank, who's already given us the cushion that's out there in the chair, that he gave us that cushion for the Balboa Yacht Club. But then there's 3 more items here. This from Andrew McIrvin for you, as if we need more coffee mugs, but this is a special one. It's got the burgees of the Royal Yacht Squadron and the Royal Ocean Racing Club crossed with his boat name and number. That from Andrew McIrvin for you.
Oh, I will cherish that.
And that is really very special.
Yes.
This is the International Maxi Association yearbook, and we have one here in the library, but he wanted it because I know you wanted to have one upstairs. So there, Julia.
Oh my gosh.
Here's one for you from Andrew.
Wow.
And then here's the best one of all.
Yes.
When we were doing the commemoration, you see on your screen the commemoration for Her Majesty the Queen, we used that clip from with Paddington Bear, and we couldn't come up with a type of jelly. Remember what it was? Remember what it was? It was marmalade.
Yeah.
And we both blew that. And Andrew brought from the Royal Yacht Squadron, Sevilla, orange marmalade. This is the Royal Yacht Squadron special marmalade.
Oh my goodness.
For you from Andrew McIrvin.
He's outdone himself.
Hold that up in front of your camera again. Just it's the Royal Yacht Squadron. This is fancy stuff. This is unobtainium, as we would say.
Absolutely. Oh, good.
So when we were commemorating Her Majesty, now we have the right stuff, and not only that, but from the Royal Yacht Squadron to boot. So thank you guys.
Oh, that's great.
Great friends.
Thank you guys.
As we're lots of these guys, and if you ever get an invite, in fact, maybe we should charter a boat sometime and invite some FOSI to come to the Stag Cruise, and we'll do it. You can come as guests. You pay $100 more than the members do.
Yeah.
It's not that expensive, and it is. Despite all the stories about the eating and drinking, and which goes on, there's no doubt, but it's really about the fabulous entertainment and the amazing camaraderie of people like our friends here in this photo.
Yeah.
Now, Gordon Smith is saying Seville, but Sevilla in Spanish. Seville oranges are essential for marmalade. You have been spoilt with a T. Bill Porter, marmalade sandwiches. Yeah, we couldn't quite get that right. And Julia, I don't know when we're going to do that marmalade, but that sounds great.
Yes.
Let's see your flag.
Yeah, no, it's really beautiful.
Class act, all 3 of those clubs.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, guys. And thank you, Julia. You helped us host them here on Wednesday night and others as well. It's a bad way to start the Stag Cruise with playing music here in the salon at the Beach Street Yacht Club.
Oh, it was beautiful.
Until O-Dark. Well, it wasn't O-Dark 30, but it was.
But it was an early night compared to most of them.
The 65th Stag Cruise was no doubt one of the best in memory, according to not me, but everybody else who's been going. I've been going for 30 of the last 40, something like that.
Yeah.
I used to come as a guest, a VIP, and talk.
No.
Now I have to pay.
Now you have to pay. Yeah, big deals.
Okay. Let's carry on here. Get on with show number 555. Do you know, Julia, what day it is today? Here's your first and only clue.
I think it is World
Tourism Day. It is indeed. It's another one of these United Nations days. I suppose it's got, good reasons. But tourism, I didn't know this, some facts for World Tourism Day. Tourism employs 1 in every 10 people on Earth.
That's amazing.
You believe that?
Yes, I do.
You do?
If you think about it for a minute.
Yeah, I did think about it for a minute, and then I thought that sounds crazy, but maybe it's right. I mean, you got to believe the United Nations. The United Nations would never send you astray, would they? International tourism saw a strong rebound in the first 5 months of 2022 with almost 250 million international arrivals recorded. This means that the sector has recovered almost half of the pre-pandemic 2019 levels, according again to the UN. Last press release, for today. It came out a couple days ago. Results are optimistic, but the impact of the war in Ukraine could cost the possible loss of U.S. $14 billion to the tourism economy, indeed. But You know, tourism, when we go yacht racing in a foreign country, we go to sail in a world championship or sail in the city in Hobart or whatever. That's really tourism, right?
Yeah.
Of a special kind, sports tourism, I suppose. So happy Tourism Day, World Tourism Day. It's also in the U.S. I want to dedicate this to Jody Shields. In the U.S., Julie, do you know what day it is here? Special, it's the biggest. There's a bunch of these things.
Beer Day.
You knew it.
No, but it's Jody.
What
else
you
could
knew
it be?
it was. It is. Here in the U.S. It's National Beer Day, and I didn't want to get into that because this is not a drinking show with a sailing habit. But let's get into the starting line, and as usual, we like to begin with our good friend John Emmett with the coach's corner, and he filed a report earlier this morning. It was a reflective report walking about in his hometown of Weymouth. Have a look.
Julia and all the FOSI. I guess I'm probably a familiar sight to people now, walking around talking to myself. They probably need to go to some different places. And me and my little furry friend, yeah, it works really well. In fact, I'm actually considering using the wireless mic for some of the interviews, because I think the quality has now just improved so much that probably don't really need to worry about having that full camera equipment. So we'll see. Big event, next big event is the Worlds in Houston for the Ilka Sixers. So just one more week in Weymouth, and yeah, it's not sunny Weymouth at the moment, but there we go. So I've really enjoyed being back at home for a while. And I think homesick is probably the wrong phrase to use if you're a middle-aged man, but it is important to spend time at home. This weekend I mainly enjoyed watching the Sail GP. I mean, it's like football teams or whatever. I think people will have their favourites and you know, get very passionate about it. But for me, I just enjoy the racing, and it's really the only time I think I've actually set a time in my diary to go and see a specific show. Nowadays, whether it's Rings of Power or House of Dragon, or I don't know what other people are watching at the moment, but we just tend to watch it when we, well, in my case, when I'm exhausted and I have some time, but when we have the free time. So yeah, to watch something live is quite rare, and I try to do that with the Sail GP. Of course, it's not always possible, because you know the priority is to get the training you know, in the most appropriate weather windows and all the rest of it. But yeah, like fitting in rest days or just the rest hours in a day, actually it's worked really well. So I've really enjoyed that, and I think that says a huge amount about the series. And it's coming to the end of the season. We're coming into the winter months, and this is a sailing show with a news problem. I think we've said before, do have to just raise awareness once again as we move into the winter months in the northern hemisphere, that COVID will be on the rise again, as is normal respiratory diseases this time of year. So I'm currently on my own, as poor Lily is very nobly self-isolating in Southampton. So yeah, that's really, really kind of her, because she doesn't want to have any risk of infecting Abru just before Abru goes off to the world. So it's really considerate, because you know, if you caught something now, for most people I guess you're looking around 10 days, and we haven't got that many days at all the Worlds. So if she's watching from Southampton, get well soon, sweetheart. Very much in my thoughts. And just you know, for other people, just to think about protecting those vulnerable members of society. So eating well, probably make sure you're stocked up with paracetamol, and just take care of yourselves and each other. Looking forward to still doing a little bit more seasonal sailing. Bit in Weymouth, they don't actually insure the moorings after November. Hopefully my furry friend is doing a good job, but it's pretty windy here. Maybe you can see from the trees dancing around in the background. We're coming into that autumnal season. In fact, I had an email this morning about the weekend event saying they're considering cancelling. So I kept my mouth shut, but I wouldn't believe any forecast more than 3 days out. And actually, yeah, for here I would say Thursday midday is the first time you get a good level of accuracy for weekend sailing. So people obviously starting to panic whenever they see numbers in the high 20s. So hopefully it'll be all right, and I have to give you a little report of some more racing because I don't know if you've seen my second video from The Hague, but we had no racing there at all. But I'd already scheduled to do one video about the training and about specifically the Merging Nations program, and one video about the racing. And I've recorded all the build up, so I thought it was nice for people to see what we do when we're not racing. But yeah, it's always important to race at venue to learn about it, and hopefully next year I'll be doing a few reports from Marseille, but we'll see how that goes. So hopefully get to have a really good show. And it was funny, on Friday I was a little bit lost, not having the show then. Just we all like routines. Great, see you soon.
Nice.
It is nice. He's just he's so wonderful. Ended there with obviously the Ukraine flag. Did he say, Julia, that Lily has the Rona? Or
Yeah.
she thinks she does,
Or that she's absolutely avoiding it.
or she's just got it. Well, she's trying to. I gather she's trying to keep John healthy
Yeah.
before he. But does she have a cold, or maybe he has? I didn't quite get that. Maybe John's on here. Well, he is on here. He just made a comment. So fill us in. Does she just have a cold, or is she's wanting to be sure that you don't, or she doesn't infect you? I didn't quite get that. We can see the wind strength and direction even by John's hair, maybe by his whiskers, Stingray.
Yeah.
Gordon Smith said, feed her some chicken noodle soup. Well, she's in Southampton and John's in Weymouth, so they're not together. There's a new message.
Yeah,
there.
yes.
Yes, Lily has tested COVID. Very pleased that she got it here. And she has tested positive.
Yeah.
Where she has freedom. That would not be the case in
China.
PRC.
Wow.
Oh dear. Okay, well, get better soon. Gordon Smith understood that, and he's sending best wishes, as I'm sure everybody on here
Absolutely.
is. Fritz Mueller down in Miami. We did it. If you missed the opening of the show, we had Mark Michelson on here, our weather expert guru, FOSI, and he gave us the latest and his predictions, which are a little different from what NOAA was saying, at least in our National Ocean Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA. So go have a look at Mark Michelson's update. And I said then, if he has anything new to report, he'll send it along, and I'll post it on the SI Facebook page and my own page. Yeah. Speaking of which, while we're here, and we just want to thank John Emmett Sailing, get to the front of the fleet. Last Tuesday, a week ago, when we didn't do a show Friday, but last Tuesday, there was the commenting problem. Is that all working well again today? Is the commenting working? Because I gather from Restream.io, which is the company we use, Ukrainian company, now based, I think, down with you guys in Texas. I think they're in Austin, James Bland et al. I gather that there was some kind of a problem with Restream vis-a-vis Facebook. In fact, last night when I tried to do the usual promo for the show, they said they couldn't put the promo on Facebook. But Ed Worley is saying, yes, today everything seems to be fine. And comments are fine, John Emmett. I think the issue was the strain. It may have been, but I don't think so. Because I didn't get any copyright notices or anything afterwards, but maybe there's some strange stuff going on Facebook right now. All good in SA, Ted says.
Oh, good.
So we'll see. Apropos of that, I think we're going to stop streaming to my personal page. I'm just going to stream to the Sailing Illustrated page. That will also help the commenting a little bit. It also helps the numbers game, because we get X many, views, and we don't have to then add, Clark Chapin doesn't have to add those numbers together. So I think we're just going to stream to Sailing Illustrated and to the Sailing Illustrated TV YouTube page. I'm still streaming to Twitter. My Twitter count, half a dozen, 2 dozen people watch it there, in mostly in replay, but whatever. And I think the next thing we're going to stream to is to LinkedIn, because LinkedIn has just written me and allowed us to stream to LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we may put it up there and just see how that goes.
See what happens. YouTube
is a lot more reliable. Good to have all the comments in one place, John Emmett is saying. Yeah. Fritz Mueller in Miami saying already have one tree down in strong gusts and soggy ground. Yeah, it's the soggy ground. It was doomed anyway. Chainsaw massacre to come in the next 48 hours. Well, there is the live stream, the live camera, live shot from Key West Harbor. Their PTZ cam there, and as you can see, it's windy and rainy, but no surprise. Good. And hopefully everybody on the west coast of Florida, and even if it crosses Florida, and those of you up in Georgia and South Carolina are spared. Who knows? This could end up over with you, John. Go across the Atlantic, as some of these storms do.
Mm-hmm.
Comments good on YouTube. Paul Homchick saying Zuckerberg has started MMA fighting. True story. Is that right, Ted Ryman? Well, he's trying to keep up with who's that YouTube guy? Paul. Somebody Paul. The YouTube guy who's taking up boxing. Apparently, he's not too bad either. Okay. And Julia, if we ever stop, here's the other thing I want to ask. Julia and I have talked quietly about cutting this back to 1 day a week.
Mm-hmm.
And if we do, let us know privately. You don't have to do it now via the comments, but if we do cut back to 1 day a week, should it be Tuesday, Friday, or some other day? Because we've got some other things going, and we're getting busy again with, now that COVID's over, with other this kind of stuff. And we've also thought about going to 3 days a week. So who knows what we're going to do. Lake Middleton, I'm not sure that this storm will make it to Lake Minnetonka. No, I don't think it's going to get to Minnetonka. Fog Machine saying Zuck did some MMA training. Colbert, one of our late night hosts here in the U.S., said it sounded like they were doing their own sound effect. Emmett saying Thursday would be good. Okay, well, we don't need to talk about that. Now, I have a special this day in history. I mean, I have several today, not just today, but yesterday, of course, was a famous day on a number of accounts, the 26th of September. Julia, here, I've got several of these. Yesterday in history, the 26th of September, 1935. Anybody know? And I know there's a couple down in New Zealand who are watching. The wife knows that I'm running this, but I doubt the husband does, because
somebody was born that we love.
Exactly right. And I texted back and forth with his wife this morning to be sure that he knows that we're going to run this, because he's one of the coolest guys in the modern history of the sport. And we're going to do one of these, this is your life with him. Here's your first clue. And I don't know if you've met him, Julia, but I've known him since at least 1984. Some of you go back sailing against him. Paul Henderson, for example, said that they started sailing international 14s 60 some odd years ago. That is the esteemed Ralph Roberts in New Zealand, whose birthday it was yesterday, the 26th. And he's, 87, I think it is. Did I say 35? Yeah, 87. And he is, without doubt, he's so famous he has his own Wikipedia page. Ralph Hamilton Roberts, MBE, JP, is a New Zealand sailor and sports administrator. Roberts was born in 1935 in Takapuna, which, by the way, north shore of Auckland, where he still lives. Roberts went to the 1960 Summer Olympics in Rome and competed in the Finn class, where he came 6th out of 35. He traveled to the 64 Summer Olympics in Tokyo as a reserve for the FD crew, who went on to win the Olympic gold. And then at the 68 Olympics in Mexico City, Ciudad de Mexico, he came 8th in the Flying Dutchman class. So he's one of these versatile guys in multiple one design Olympic classes. Ralph attended the 84 Summer Olympics in LA as sailing manager, and his team won 2 gold medals in the Tornado and in the Finn. And Julia, for extra credit, do you know who won the Finn gold in 84 in LA? The very young Russell Coots.
Oh, is that so?
Yep. And Ralph was a big part of Russell's not only medal, but of his whole career. Roberts was chef de mission for the 92 New Zealand Olympic team in Barcelona, where I was on the jury. We carried on there and had some good fun. He presided over Yachting New Zealand from 86 to 89. In the 93 Queen's birthday honors, Ralph was appointed a member of the Order of the British Empire for services to yachting. Ralph holds or held several positions in the International Sailing Federation, ISAF, since renamed World Sailing. He was appointed a life member of Yachting New Zealand back in 2011. He and his wife Penny still reside in Takapuna, where his house fronts Lake Papuki, and is a member of the Harbor Access Trust. Roberts described fellow Olympic sailor, North Shore resident, who we all knew back in the Cup days in New Zealand 2003, Jeff Smale, as his best mate after Smale died in a microlight crash in 2011. So happy birthday, Ralph. One of the coolest guys in the modern history of the sport. Terrific sailor, terrific coach, great contributor to our sport. We all love him, and we even love his wife more, I think.
Yeah.
This is a photo from January when he won yet another award, a business award. He's a electrical, Roberts Electrical, I guess, electrical engineering company and supply company on the North Shore in Auckland. Bravo Zulu, happy birthday, Ralph, and best wishes for many more to you and to Penny.
Yeah.
Nice folks. Okay.
Somebody else's birthday.
Whose?
Meg's yesterday.
Yes, well, that was 2 days ago, Meg Eamon. But thanks to all of you who commented. I put some pictures of Meg and myself up there on my Facebook page. She turned 30. The turkey turned 30 on the 25th on Sunday. What else happened this day, yesterday in history, in 1983? You were all expecting me to go with that probably at the top. And in 83, the big 3-0, John Emmett is saying, yes, that's what Meg turned. You know what else happened, Julia, in 1983? Here's your first clue.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
That is Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov of Russia, of the then USSR, from a 2016 photo. He may have single-handedly saved the world. And I didn't even know this happened. We were all wrapped up in something else on 26th of September, 1983.
I know. I was going to say you were doing something else.
Newport, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
So here it is. In 1983, on the 26th of September, during the Cold War, the nuclear early warning radar of the Soviet Union reported the launch of one intercontinental ballistic missile with 4 more missiles behind it from bases in the United States. These missile attack warnings were suspected to be false alarms by this guy, Stanislav Petrov, an officer of the Soviet Air Defense Forces, thank God. He thought it was a false alarm because he was on duty at the command center of the early warning system. He decided to wait for corroborating evidence, of which none arrived, rather than immediately relaying the warning up the chain of command. This decision is seen as having prevented a retaliatory nuclear strike against the U.S. and its NATO allies, which would likely have resulted in an escalation, you think?
Yes.
To a full-scale nuclear war. Would have annihilated the planet, probably. Investigation of the satellite warning system later determined that the system had indeed malfunctioned. And, I don't remember hearing this story before. Baton Rouge is saying he heard it before.
I've heard the story, but I didn't really know any details.
Sunlight caused the false alarms. J. Frederick Bland is saying he was probably in the Navy. Maybe he's not quite in the Navy yet. He's too younger than that, but what a hero, Stingray is saying.
Yes.
Is he the guy who didn't press the big button? Well, he didn't send the word up. John Schaefer, yeah, a lot of these guys know about this. No, he wasn't the Bay of Pigs sub-commander. He was probably more important than that guy, of course. The Bay of Pigs commander, yeah. He's also a hero. But that happened on this day yesterday in 1983. Yeah, J. Frederick Bland was on the USS Birmingham at an undisclosed look. Is the Birmingham, is that a sub? I think it was. I think that's a boomer, isn't it? One of the big missile subs. Bill Wingrove replying to Bill Wingrove. What? Actually, it gets higher than. Okay, they're talking about the hurricane. I hope you all survived that in good shape.
Mm-hmm.
Not too much damage and certainly no loss of life. Now, one more this day in history. Yesterday, 1983, Julia, here's your first and only LA class, an LA class boomer. Oh, a fast attack submarine, not a boomer. I was on a boomer one time. Did the whole thing. I got the Cook's tour as part of the VIP tour during the Cup in San Diego in 90.
How about 83?
I think it was 92 or 88, 92, maybe. Yeah, 92, I think. there's your clue. What happened yesterday in 1983? You all know. You were all expecting me to carry on about this.
Yep.
The fabulous Australian win, the 1983 Cup, breaking the 132-year winning streak, the longest winning streak in sports, of our sports holy grail. And here is a news report that I'll bet not many of you have seen from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, who had their man in Newport. Have a look and listen.
No one can accuse Australia 2 of doing it the easy way, but then the Americans did hold the America's Cup for 132 years, and it has taken Australia no fewer than 7 challenges to wrest it from the firm grasp of the New York Yacht Club. To win the Cup, Australia 2 had to come from 2 races down and from nearly 1 minute behind more than halfway through the final race. On the Newport waterfront, it was chaos and ecstasy as Australia 2 was hauled out. And this is what won it for Australia 2. The monster, as the Bond Syndicate call the bulbous winged keel that made the West Australian 12-metre so competitive upwind and uncatchable downwind. Australia 2 won the start of her final contest with Liberty, but the Australian skipper John Bertrand threw away a handy lead halfway up the first leg. He failed to cover the American defender, and Liberty's skipper Dennis Connor got better use of the breeze. The Americans were in front at the first mark by 29 seconds. By the end of the first of the 2 reaching legs, at the second mark, Australia 2 was 45 seconds behind. Heading down the second reaching leg, Liberty has extended her lead over Australia 2. It seems that Bertrand's errors early in the race may have cost Australia 2 the America's Cup. But it never pays to rule out a comeback by Australia 2. And on the 5th leg, the West Australian 12-metre got the opportunity to show what an extraordinary downwind marvel Mr. Ben Lexon has designed. Australia 2 picked up an amazing 1 minute and 18 seconds, and with that slid into the lead to be ahead by a slender 21 seconds with 1 leg to sail. Connor battled back but could not get close. The America's Cup was Australia 2's. The Australian syndicate boss, Mr. Alan Bond, said the trophy would remain the America's Cup, and the first Royal Perth Yacht Club defence would be in 1987 or 88.
Quite seriously, John Bertram and his crew have done a fine job today, as you all saw. And I'm so pleased that we can say not goodbye to Newport and to many friends here, but an open invitation to the people of Newport and the people of America to come to Perth in Western Australia and try and win it back. We'll welcome you.
After 132 years in the United States, after the longest winning streak in sporting history, the America's Cup is off to Perth. Jim Middleton, ABC News, Newport.
That was nice, wasn't it?
I don't know this. John Schaefer says, does anyone know the Loran debacle on Liberty for the race in 83?
No, not heard anything about it, John. Captain Jack? No, I've not heard that. I was on the bow of the jury boat. The jury, I was kind of helping the jury. I wasn't quite the jury secretary for that event, but they were using my office for protest hearings at the U.S. Yacht Racing Union, and so I was their helper. And so they let me go on the jury boat, and I was right on the bow. I was the closest human being. There were no umpires in those days, of course, no TV, and I was right on the bow of the jury boat, following right behind this match all the way around. And when they got to that top mark the last time, people are going to sleep. Dennis has pulled it out again. He got ahead after losing the start. And we're going down that last leg, and in the first 2 or 3 minutes of that leg, you could see that Australia 2 was faster and a lot faster. And Stingray and others who think that Dennis made a mistake by not covering, Dennis and Tom, I've talked to them at length about this, and I think they did exactly the right thing. They could see how fast that other boat, Australia 2, is going, so they decided to sail their own race downwind and try to stay ahead. And I think covering, if people argue, well, if they'd covered, they might have been able to luff them and, got into rules infringement, but I don't think so. I think Liberty was slower than Australia 2, and they were very well sailed, and they'd finally fixed their kites. Liberty, Aus 2 had some bad spinnakers. The late, great, well, not late, he's still around. Tom Schnackenberg fixed their kites, the Kiwi, fixed their spinnakers, and they were an amazing team, an amazing effort. And that night in Newport was an amazing night.
Yes.
Race 7 was broadcast live on ESPN. I don't think so, Steve Gruber. I think ABC had a blimp and cut in and out. don't remember for sure. Maybe you're right. When the other boat has that much boat speed, you split. I agree, David James. Shortly after the 83 Cup, Steve Ross is saying, I sailed against John Bertrand at Newport Harbor Yacht Club. I beat him. Hello, gang. Andrew Pindar is Alicante. So good to have you back, Andrew.
Say hello to Alicante.
And yeah, Fogger, I thought he said, well, Ben Lexon said he was going to steamroller it and rename it the America's Plate. But that was a joke, in fact, at the prize giving a couple days later at, I think it was at Marble House, the mansion. The Commodore, Bob Stone, Robert Stone Jr., did a fantastic job guiding the club through that whole mess, because there were people. There was the America's Cup committee voted again in my office. They were holding their meetings in my office too. They voted 5-4 or 6-5 to carry on. There was half that committee nearly was ready to call the cup off because they were convinced the Australians had not played by the rules in having the Dutch design the boat, which, you can still argue about that both sides today. But they did go on, and I think Bob Stone, Commodore Stone, was an amazing, strong force. Yeah, Lake Middleton, that's a nice report. Ed Worley, DC and America and Australia 2, Liberty and Australia 2 tacked over 40 times on that last upwind leg to the finish. Yes, indeed. An epic tacking duel. Steve Gruber was on the water in Newport that day. Really an epic race indeed. Covered, Dennis, covered. Now, Stingray, I think David James was right. I think they did the right thing, and I'm not just saying that because they're friends or Americans for that matter.
And Steve Gruber says ESPN did air race.
Did air race 7 at live? Did they, Steve? Okay, well, I take your word for it. I know that ABC had a blimp, and Bob Bevere was up in the blimp trying to tell the camera guy what to do. I didn't think they had live TV coverage from out there. I'll have to go back and look for it. Gary Jobson would know, and I don't remember. Okay, so that happened on yesterday, the 26th of September, obviously 1983. We still have one more. I've never had 4 of these in a show, Julia.
Boomerang.
Well, I'm kind of in my Stag Crew mode still. I did shave. I almost did a John Emmett. And didn't shave for one more day, because I didn't shave at Stag Crews. I admire guys that go up there and shave. Not me. This day in history, you have to cover this. This was a yachting event.
1066.
In 1066, and everybody knows what happened in 1066, right?
Right.
What happened, Julia?
The
Norman?
Yeah, Norman invasion. Yeah.
Exactly. This was to be your first and only clue. Now, I don't know how to pronounce this. I guess it's Bayeux. How do you say that in French? Bayeux, yeah. Bayeux.
Yeah.
Tapestry, which apparently is the only series. I mean, there's artists, modern day artists who have done renderings of what they thought this looked like, but this is the oldest and most famous, I gather. William, could you tell me, you Brits would know? Yeah, the French sailed to Hastings, Dan Ryman is saying. William the Conqueror lands at, how do you say this? Pevensey in Great Britain. And that, of course, in 1066, the course of British history changed forever when William, the Duke of Normandy, landed on the southern coast of England and seized the country from its Anglo-Saxon king, Harold Godwinson. The French had a long history of claims in England, and in 10,002, the English king, Athelred?
Athelred.
Athelred the Unready, what a great name, married the sister of Richard II, the Norman Duke. So Gordon Smith said he visited Bayeux. How do you say that? Bayeux?
Yeah, in France.
In French. How do you say that, Julia?
Bayeux.
You're the French speaker.
Bayeux.
So, of course, that happened this day in history a long time ago. And I didn't know all this. So you Brits would all know this history. But this all happened. The conquering of England all happened pretty quickly. You see there on this map in Pevensey, is that how you pronounce that? William lands, he left France on the 27th and landed on the 28th, so tomorrow, and it was all over by Christmas. Well, what would have been Christmas the 25th. William was crowned on the 25th of December back in London, but they had battles up and down, and there were a couple battles going on because the Norwegians were trying to, Norsemen were trying to take over at the same time, or so one hears. Hey, Tom, what kind of sails did they use back then? Well, I guess they were cotton. They were even before canvas, right? The Vikings were defeated for the final time not long before. Yes, Gordon Smith is saying. That was going on up in the north. You can see Harold defeats Harold Harada and Tassig Godwinson on the 25th of September. This all went on pretty quickly. So that's what happened on this date, 27th of September. William the Conqueror's troops set sail. It's a sailing show, after all, from Normandy to conquer England. Right, Julia?
Yes.
Nice, eh? We covered all the historical events yesterday and today.
I can see you do the same thing I do. You get distracted, and then the next one gets more interesting, and you go on and on.
Well, no, I mean, I knew the cup.
Yeah.
And a lot of people said, "Oh, you're going to do the cup, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah," but then once you go through and see what else happened, I knew about 1066 because I think we covered that before.
Yeah.
On or about these dates. Gordon Smith, my Harry's name is actually Harold. You're Harry's. I don't know what that means. Ralph Roberts is on. Tom and Julia, was a great surprise. Thank you. Well, Ralph, we love you to death. And Julia hasn't had the pleasure of meeting you, but I haven't known, since at least 84. And it may have been before that I met Ralph Roberts, who is just one of the great guys, as I said, in the modern history of our sport. Let's carry on here to Bravo Zulu. We didn't cover this on Friday because we weren't on the air on Friday and barely did any mention of it last Tuesday because the Sail GP hadn't pushed out any video, but you know who that is? Our FOSI, I should say, from Spain, who's almost always on here, sent this photo. She was at Sail GP. That's Monica Diaz at Sail GP in Cádiz. And she said it was a terrific event, a little light on day 2 of the racing. But we have the video. It's a long video. It's almost 15 minutes long. I'm going to play the first few minutes of it, and then I'll cut to the final, the last event where the top 3 boats race off. Roll tape.
We welcome you to the Spain Sail Grand Prix. We have 3 races on day 1 and 2 more on day 2 before the top 3 teams compete in the final podium race.
9, 8, 7, 6.
All about hitting this line at full speed. Who's timed it right? At the top of the line, has the Swiss got a gap? I think there's not going to be room in there. Watch for it going light.
GBR OCS over the line early. Delayed start of Spain,
Big moment there, Australia and Great Britain. There must have been millimetres in that. They must now drop to the back of the fleet. They don't have to get behind the Spanish, but everyone else. Great news for Quentin de la Pierre, as I think the French are going to lead us away to Mark 1. Look at the New Zealand boat is bucking around in the background. They're trying to get things going, but the United States, they're foiling hard and fast and look like they're going to drive over the top.
Stand by.
Here we go. They set up on the French boat. Let's watch them do it. Oh, top of the screen, Canada. They've come off the foils. They jumped out of the water. Look at the speed fall off there. The New Zealand boat struggling in that turn as well. And the French, well, they've done a nice job there, de la Pierre. USA turn. Can they keep it in the air? New Zealand, they turn left. They're coming towards the camera and going, Great Britain off the foils. Luke Parkinson, he loves flying the boat high, but he got a bit too high. He's hit the brakes at the roundabout just in front of the Australians, and Slingsby's had to park the boat to avoid him. And at the moment, Spain, they're right back in it. Jimmy Spittill's pushing it. He's flying high. Oh, that's going to go to the umpires. Expect to hear from Craig Mitchell on that one.
This is the umpires. A penalty USA, relative Spain. Port tack boat not keeping clear.
Oh, he was pushing his luck though, Todd. He's now going to drop behind the Spanish. That's going to be a costly one for Jimmy Spittill. This will hurt. Here we go. Gate 3. And it's going to be the French. Clear ahead of New Zealand. Down at gate number 4, it's going to be very slow on the New Zealand boat. Opportunity for the French to go around the outside and make it really hard.
Not the cleanest round.
New Zealand must keep clear, Todd. New Zealand have got to keep
clear.
So
the commentary is, I agree, Ed Worley, it gets a little old, but the sailing was good. John Emmett, GBR had gear issues again on day 2. Stingray saying day one's conditions were terrific. Indeed, I've looked at the whole video. We're still in the first fleet race from day one. Steve Ross saying, I really enjoyed the very challenging Sail GP last weekend. I'm beginning to like Sail GP, Steve Ross is saying.
Yeah.
And Stingray saying, yeah, Monica.
Yes.
Our FOSI, and Gordon Smith clarifying, my son, his son's Harry is actually Harold. Well, Harold, of course, is the current king of Norway and a great sailor. He won the 1-ton cup here in San Francisco in, I don't know, in the 80s sometime. And he's a, as you know, Julie, is a good friend. He's a good friend. So I'm not going to continue on with this because I go through the rest of the fleet races. Let's get to the final three-boat race.
If they can get fast enough to foil, how's your timing on board the boat?
France,
here?
US,
the
and
look
Australia.
Good. It goes green. Let's watch for the line to turn white. Clear start. Great start by De La Pierre, but look at the speed on the Australian. Slingsby, can he slingshot through the middle?
And they are 3 wide as they make their way to mark number 1 here in the podium race.
He's going to hold the inside here as they enter the yellow circle. That gives him the right of way. De La Pierre's going to have to follow. Oh, the French fall down off the foils as well. They're just fast enough at the moment, though. Look at the American boat there. He flies too high. Oh, no. Massive moment. France spins around behind, turns away. They put the boat down. It's all going to be about the re-acceleration now. Tom Slingsby said it's going to be a long race. Oh, my Lord, the pressure's on these crews. He turns up into the wind. As you turned the wind up here, the boat just starts to get too much lift on that main foil, and it just stalled. It was going too slowly to stay in the air. It jumped up, and what goes up must come down. French are off the foils, though, in the background. Look at that, 16 kilometers an hour. They're going to struggle. Big mistake by them. USA set up for the turn. They put the bow in the water as well. Can they stay foiling? At the moment, they're fast enough. Oh, my word, this is going to compress. Oh, the French are still off the foils.
This is huge for the Australians. If they can keep up and foiling and get through that maneuver, they might be back in this race.
And look in the background, great viewing up on the seawall for the thousands of fans who have turned out today for the Spain Sail Grand Prix. And right in front of them, one of the most dramatic moments of the race as France puts it in the water. The USA follows, and here they come. The Australians, the 2-time reigning and defending champions, they have closed the gap.
This is absolutely massive. This is the race-winning maneuver. Let's see if they can make it.
Oh, they're going to try too hard. It's so tight. Now the French have got to keep clear of the Americans. The Americans have the right of way. Jimmy Spithill knows that, but the French boat's foiling. Can Jimmy put him off his foils? Expects an aggressive move from the Americans coming.
Classic match race in the final gate. It's the Americans on the inside, the French on the outside.
It's going to be a sprint now. They're both off the foils, Todd. It's a sprint to the foils, and there's the finish line coming into view.
Separated by just a few meters. With the finish line there, who will get the win as they come to the line here in Spain? And it will be France getting their first victory in Sail GP St. Magnifique.
Oh, they blur.
What a race.
Winning this Grand Prix on the Falcon thing, it was a huge step forward for the team.
Yeah, well, a sprint to the foils. You know, I'm not. We all misspeak. God knows I do every show all the time.
Yeah,
Julia.
Somebody was reminding us that this is not commentary for sailors. It's
Yeah, I saw that too. But you know, it is commentary first and foremost for the sailors. I think everybody else. If you lose the sailors, I keep saying this. If you don't have the sailors on your side, if they're not happy, then we've lost it all. Ted Ryman, great racing, couldn't agree more. Who can foil first? Yes, it was a little light that second day, as you could see, and there was some seaway too. Forget the distances; it is the time between boats. Yes, Fog Machine saying again, commentary is cringeworthy, but you know, again, Julie, you don't hear any other sporting event where it's, it's telling you what's going on. It's filling in some color. And then if it gets really, really close, like at the end, I can see getting excited.
Yeah.
But, and because it is truly, it's a dash to the finish. And
yeah. Well, and they're really trying to get some attention and excitement into.
Yeah, but I don't think you get it. I don't think you do it that way. Jody Shield, loads of pressure on the skippers doing flight control as well as driving. But you're so nice. You're absolutely right. They're just trying to spice it up for the non-sailors, right? You and, was it Gordon Smith?
Even the sailors.
Well, yeah, but I think sailors, see through this. Photo finish, USA very nearly caught France. And I agree with John Emmett here, Julia, that Australia is still probably sailing consistently the best. That was John Schaefer who said, remember, the commentating isn't for sailors,
right.
It's for those land peoples. The land peoples. Oh, lots of comments coming. Gordon Smith, well, was one other comment. Stingray, day one back in Saint-Tropez was the best SailGP action I've seen. That was good. Gordon Smith, perhaps the objective is to make non-sailors feel like they can discuss the race in the bar office after the event. Yeah, I think it's got to be off-putting, though, to non-sailors. Again, if you heard, okay, soccer, Ray shoots, he scores! I got some bugging here. Something's bugging me, Joe.
Oh, yes. Well, you probably asked for it.
Loving the racing. Try to watch it live whenever possible. John Emmett is saying over on YouTube now. I don't mind the commentary. Ryman is saying, well, Ted's a pretty good judge. So maybe Julie, you and Ted are right, and the rest of us that are feeling like it's a little croutonic, maybe we're the croutons. Now, here was the behind-the-scenes story. On the last day, to help the boats foil, each team had to remove one person. And most of them removed, because they need the grinding power, most of them removed the flight controller. Really? So Jimmy Spithill and Tom Slingsby have revealed how both the U.S. and Australian teams suffered flight control issues in the Cadiz final after the race committee instructed the final three teams to sail with a 4-crew configuration. Spithill and Slingsby opted to jettison their flight controllers.
Why would they do that?
Hans Henke, well, because they figured the skippers, could control the flight themselves. Hans Henken and Jason Waterhouse, respectively, for the U.S. team and for the Australian team, resulting in both drivers juggling steering, tactics, and flight control. And this is another look at that U.S. problem when airborne almost.
Yeah.
Oh, the French fall down off the foils as well. They're just fast enough at the moment, though. Look at the American boat there. He flies too high. Oh, no. Massive moment. France spins around behind, turns away. They put the boat down. It's all going to be about the re-acceleration now, Tom.
Okay, well, I don't know what else to say. Any other comments about SailGP? But I agree with John Emmett that it does look like Tommy Slingsby and the Australians are still the team to beat. They're up 4 points over Pete Burling and co. on the Kiwi boat. And look at Quentin Delapierre.
He's done well, though.
Yeah, he's now up to third, ahead of Ben Ainsley. Sir Ben still struggling. He had some equipment problems, as a couple of you mentioned on the first day. Phil Robertson keeping that Canadian team in the hunt, at least. And Nathan struggling with the Swiss down at the bottom, trying to get them up to speed as they have been struggling all along. USA still having flight control problems, but it has been improving fast, hence the first and second overalls in these past two events. Good point, Stingray. Thank you. Yeah, probably John Emmett was saying the defining moment of that race, that video we just showed you. They jettisoned the flight controllers, Ed Worley. Here, we'll look at it one more time.
Oh, the French fall down off the foils as well. They're just fast enough at the moment, though. Look at the American boat there. He flies too high. Oh, no. Massive moment. France spins around behind, turns away. They put the boat down. It's all going to be about the re-acceleration now, Tom.
So I guess if both Jimmy and Tommy are doing the same thing, they must, think that's the right thing to do. And those are two pretty smart, experienced guys.
Yeah.
So that's how that better off flying properly with few grinders. David James is saying, well, I think, David, if so, obviously it cost Jimmy the race, but maybe he wouldn't have even been in the hunt if he hadn't taken that person off. Maybe the person is a heavy person. I don't know. But obviously Jimmy thought he could fly the boat as well as steer it.
Well, they probably can, but
and maybe they thought it was going to be lighter than it turned out to be. And if it's lighter, maybe it's easier. I don't know. I haven't sailed on one of these boats, let alone tried to drive one. So there's we said the season championship standings after Cadiz in Andalusia, the Spanish Grand Prix. Dubai Sail Grand Prix presented by P&O. P&O Marinas is up next. Taking October off, and then in Dubai the 12th through the 13th of November as we start to wind down this show. But I've got I just got a text from Michelson. Bear with me while I go see what he's saying. 5 p.m. update. Let me see what Mark is saying. The red dot, 195 kilometers, 120 miles per hour wind. Hurricane warning extended south on, the latest. The red dot is where the National Hurricane Center thinks Hurricane Ian will be tomorrow, Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And I can't really show this to you, I don't think, easily. But he is saying the red, it looks like Fort Charlotte. That's what he's saying. Maybe I can show it to you on my camera. He's saying tomorrow at 5 o'clock Eastern, just west, obviously, Fort Myers, and it looks like it's going through Fort Charlotte, which is well south. As those Floridians, those of you familiar with that west coast of Florida, will know. And if that's the case, Bill Wingrove, those of you up in Tampa, St. Pete, Sarasota, might be being spared the worst of this. I wouldn't want to be down in Fort Myers. Commentary, Julie Aarons, the commentary is not for sailors back on Sail GP. We can just watch and know what's happening. Yeah, fair enough. You can always turn it down. I just think the over-excitement cheapens the thing. I don't think you have to be overly excited to enthuse to bring in sailors or non-sailors, but that's just me, I guess. It's time to do Correct or Crutonic, Jody's contribution to this show. And guess what, Julia?
What?
It's about, what do you think it's about? Here's your first clue, and the only clue.
Oh, yes, of course.
Of course it's about beer.
Of course it is, yes.
And it is, Jody, in your honor that we run this, beer is good for you. The headline today in the Daily Mail, scientists claim 2 pints a day may slash your risk of dementia. Julia, we got to switch.
Oh, yeah.
We got to switch from tequila, as they would say, as President Kennedy would have said, or Cuber. Got to switch to beer. Experts studied drinking habits and dementia rates among 20. This is an Australian report, an Australian study among 20. Wouldn't you know? Among 25,000 over 60-year-olds. Mm-hmm. Drinking 2 pints a day slashed risk of the memory robbing condition by 1/3.
Wow.
Non-drinkers, a fifth more likely to be a dementia sufferer than the biggest drinkers. Okay, notwithstanding all the other problems that it might cause, like obesity and liver failure. But look at this. Drinking beer every night may lower your risk of dementia, scientists claim. Australian researchers studied the drinking habits and dementia rates among fully 25,000 people over 60. Results showed people who drank the equivalent of 2 pints a day were a third less likely to get the memory-robbing condition than teetotalers.
Well, we don't have to worry about being teetotalers.
Well, we don't. But non-drinkers faced the highest threat, according to the results. They were roughly a fifth more like. You know, my theory is, Julia.
What?
I think that it's because you drink beer and you take aspirin in the morning to clear your head, or Paramus. I had to tell Julia when you said John Emmett used what is it? Paracetamol, I think it is. That's what the Brits call aspirin.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. I think it's because we all take aspirin if you've had too much to drink the night, or it clears out your arteries. Non-drinkers face the highest threat, according to the results. They were roughly a fifth more likely to get struck down with dementia than the biggest boozers, who got through at least 3 pints a night.
Ooh.
The researchers said their findings show that abstaining from alcohol seems to carry no protective benefits against dementia. However, experts noted that while moderate alcohol consumption may stave off the cruel disorder, excessive drinking is nonetheless dangerous. Now, maybe it's because you die from cirrhosis of the liver before you can get dementia.
Yeah.
What do you think? Maybe that's
it. Could be.
I thought that would get everybody going. And of course, that is brought to you by Sailing Illustrated, the drinking show with a sailing habit. I tell you.
Oh.
Blake Middleton has got a couple of conditions that have forced him to be a teetotaler. Teetotaler. Fritz Mueller down in Miami. Stay safe, Fritz. Some drink to forget, less to remember gives you a chance of remembering what matters. Good things. Study sponsored by, proudly sponsored by Foster's Beer, David James.
Yes.
Paracetamol is not the same. What is it? Is it the same as ibuprofen? What is it, John? It's either ibuprofen or aspirin. Did I get that wrong? Is it what we call Tylenol? Dentists prefer that you drink beer than orange juice. Yeah, that's right. You don't want to eat sugar. Don't want to drink sugar. That's for sure. What else? Probably more related to the fact that social people stay more mentally active. Julia, that I buy.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's a good point. I buy that, John Emmett. What is paracetamol? Is that ibuprofen? Is that
Tylenol? Peter Taylor.
Tylenol. Peter Taylor says. Thank you, Peter. Socially active people keep their brain. And I'll tell you, the reason Julie and I continue to do this show has more to do with keeping in touch with all of you, with our friends.
Absolutely.
Keeping our brains active. And, you know, when I have to put this show together on Mondays and Thursdays, I don't go out. I mean, I don't go over to the club. I don't carry on. We maybe have one cocktail at dinner, if that. You had only one cocktail last night. I did.
Yes.
I barely have. Of course, I'm just coming off the staggering cruise. So.
I know. I don't have that problem.
John Emmett, we found we didn't have enough paracetamol in the house when Lily got COVID. Acetaminophen, acetamine, whatever it is, Fritz Mueller. Thank you. Here in the U.S., we think of aspirin, Tylenol, because they're at least Tylenol is Bayer was the German company that invented aspirin, right?
Yeah.
Or bought it after somebody else invented it. And then ibuprofen is, what do we call that stuff? Ibuprofen, we call it something else.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Now we're talking about drugs. Why are there no aspirin in the jungle, Gordon Smith asks? Because the parrots ate them all. The parrots ate them all. Okay. Parrots ate them all. Ah, gosh. Yachting news, views, and habits, our show number 555. Let's get back. Advil, thank you. Well done. Motrin. Yeah, Julie Aaron's Motrin is, Motrin, which women, I know it was, my wife used to take it for menstrual cramps and so on. It's an anti-inflammatory. And when I was having back problems, Motrin was the best anti-inflammatory I took. I mean, it really did help a lot more so than Advil or Aleve or aspirin and so on. Of course, a stiff bourbon and a couple aspirin work too. Blake Middleton, if wind and weather conditions allow this weekend, I plan on filming a live from the signal boat segment from you. Thank you. You're still running scow racing up in Minnesota, Blake? Good deal. Naproxen is good. Ibuprofen is an anti-inflammatory invented by Boots Company in Nottingham, UK. Okay, bunch of smart people
I
on
know.
here, Julia. Let's get back to yachting. I do have a report, as promised in the show notes at the top of the show, from the Royal Cup 52 Super Series in Scarlino in Italy, and a terrific wrap-up video of today's 2 races. Roll tape.
A long-awaited return to Tuscany in beautiful Italy for the 52 Super Series 4th regatta of the season, and this is the Royal Cup 52 Super Series Scarlino. Top of the table, it's very, very slim lead for Phoenix, but there's big changes on board the platoon as Vasco Viscotto returns as tactician.
I'm very lucky because it's a privilege to sail with these guys. These guys are so good. It will be easy for me from now on to be integrated in this kind of team. They are very nice and I think that we can do something very good.
So the first day of the Royal Cup in Scarlino, 2 good races, 20 knots of breeze in the first race, the second race finishing with very light breezes and a big wind shift. But it's Quantum Racing who come out on top after the first day by virtue of 2 second places. Vayu win the first race and the second race is won by Sled. Vayu get a nice start at the top end of the first beat. They get ahead and leading round the top mark first time round, and they go on to record their first win of the 52 Super Series of their careers on the circuit. Second race, Sled get through Quantum at the top mark and lead through with a big shift on the final downwind, and it's a big win for Sled, but Quantum is 2 second places lead the regatta.
Anytime you can come off the water and score that well, we'll be happy with that. And it was very interesting. Lots of different changing conditions that we had to work through. The team did a great job.
Interesting day. It was all on that second race especially. It was breeze shifting around and rain squall that went through and turned the thing inside out. But fortunately, you know, we were at the front of the fleet when that happened and managed to hang on.
I felt really good. It felt good to finally get a win. It feels like we're moving forward, especially getting a win in the breeze. Yeah, we haven't really been that quick in the breeze before, but today it was going well.
After 2 races, Quantum Racing with 2 second places are on 4 points. Sled are second with a first and a fifth for 6 points. And third are Phoenix, third and a fourth for the day for 7 points. 2 good races here in Scarlino, the opening day of the Royal Cup. Quantum Racing on top by virtue of 2 second places. Race wins for Vayu and for Sled.
That nice video.
Yeah, handsome yachts too. They look really good in the water.
You know, I've got the, it's another Rolex event. I don't know that Rolex does any production with that, but that series runs through October 1st. But I want to say that, you know, Rolex and the Maxi, the stuff that was here for and all the events that Rolex is involved in, obviously they're involved in this too, but that video and the production values and the fact that I got it probably 2 hours ago.
Yes, amazing.
You know, maybe 3 hours. What is it now? Almost 1,500 here. So I probably had it like at 11. So probably 4 hours ago. They get it done. They get it edited. That's from today's racing. Today is the 27th. It was, and that's day 1 of the regatta. And
that's fabulous.
I just got to say they are doing a fabulous job. I haven't paid much attention to them this year, so I apologize. And when they got that video out, I said we better run with that.
Yes.
And you know, Sail GP does cool stuff, but they don't get, this is what you want to get. I think this is what, whether you're a television program like us or a webcast or something else, you know, the people want to put links in on their pages, and whether it's Scuttlebutt or Sailing Anarchy or any of the other websites around the world. Wow, sailors with sail handling, tacking, and downwind runs, Ed Worley, thumbs up.
I know.
Great stuff. As far as I'm concerned, that is 100 times better than Sail GP, David James is saying. Lake Middleton, we'll see what we can be done, but we hope to have the video view out. Okay, he's talking about his racing this weekend at the Ugata Regatta for J24s, 22s, and 70s up in Minnesota. Lake Minnetonka, right? Blake, is that right? Would be good AC class, real sailing. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of you on here would agree. Gordon Smith, classes that get their act together with sail and spinnaker colors designs really is a gift to the marketeers, to the sponsors. Yeah, and Jay Rendell, who's also up at White Bear Yacht Club, he's getting his season end slideshow together. Maybe share that with us, Jay. We can use some of them or have you on. And then Julie Ahrens, I think Julia Vetican, I think Julie Ahrens was a nurse, maybe a retired nurse, because I remember talking to her. We had one long conversation. My wife, of course, is a nurse, and our bartender here at the Beach Street Yacht Club is a nurse.
Yeah.
Surrounded by nursing talent. But,
and one who avoids them.
Who you avoid them.
Yeah.
Come on, you were texting with your doctor. I was saying, Julia, we got to get going here with Mark Michelson. Mark, thanks again for coming on. We really appreciated your little update there, and your update mid-show, in fact. Speaking of updates, there's some good news coming out of the America's Cup. It was announced yesterday. You know who that is?
Yes.
Ian Murray.
Yeah.
He's been named the AC-37 Regatta Director again. I think it's his 4th time. Ian Murray has been appointed, this is the press release from AC-37 yesterday, has been appointed as Independent Regatta Director for the 37th America's Cup in Barcelona, alongside Richard Slater, who continues in the role as Chief Umpire. positions they both occupied for the 36th Cup in Auckland. Murray's role will see him take charge of all aspects on the water of the 37th Cup and all AC World Series events in the lead up to the regatta start in September 2024. Now in his fourth American Cup as regatta director, Ian Murray's career in the Cup stretches all the way back to 1983, when he joined the crew of the 12-meter Advance. Remember, they had three boats, and they all worked together, which is part of the reason they won in '83. They had Advance, Australia, Challenge, and the three names of the boats were Advance, Australia, well, in this case, 2, and then it was Challenge 12, Challenge. And that's, again, one of the reasons they won. And then Ian, after he had the dog of the 3 boats, and then he ended up on Challenge as the trial horse for Australia 2. So he was helping out in '83, helping them win the Cup, before skippering then, this last sentence of that first paragraph, the '87 Australian Task Force Defence Syndicate. I don't remember the task force, but I guess that's what the Kookaburra Syndicate was called. He was helmsman of Kookaburra 2 for the '87 America's Cup in Frio, and was ultimately beaten in the match by DC Stars and Stripes, as you all know, in '87, having played a key role in the design, alongside John Swarbrick, of the technically advanced Australian Defender.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my former, I did, 3 Cups with Richard, and did a lot of judging and umpiring with him, too. Richard Slater is one of the architects of many of the rules governing high-performance foiling. He's really invented this judging in the container, this electronic television judging. He will be a key figure making the sporting calls in real time and coordinating the umpire team and international jury. And, of course, the umpire team is doing the racing, making the calls real time during the racing like we have now, and virtually not just match racing and team racing. I never expected when we started umpiring way back in '88 that it would be doing Sail GP.
Well, it makes so much sense, though. Yeah.
Even the TP52s have umpires. The medal races for the Olympics, when you're down to the final 10 boats, so it does make sense.
Anybody who's spent the last 15 hours on a protest meeting.
Yeah, exactly. And Richard will not only be heading up that international umpire team, Julia, but he will also be doing the jury. So if they have any protests over measurement rules and so on, they will have oversight. The role also requires Richard to continue the development of the America's Cup edition of the racing rules. World Sailing allows, after the payment of a princely fee to World Sailing, then America's Cup can go off and write their own rules, including the World Sailing approval processes. Okay. Richard Slater, the chief umpire for AC37. Richard's involvement with the Cup goes back to young Australian set in '99, when he acted as rules advisor to the team that included young Jimmy Spittle. That's actually when we first met. Stints as a respected IU and IJ ensued across events, including the World Match Racing Tour, the VOR, and as rules advisor of the Australian team at the 2021 Tokyo Olympic Games. Richard was appointed chief umpire for the 35th Cup, a role he repeated for the 36th Cup. And they didn't mention that he was also the rules advisor for BMW Oracle Racing. I was helping with that more in the the external affairs. Richard and I were the rules team together, but he handled specifically the racing rules and the tactical stuff with the afterguard, and did a brilliant job. In, I think, 03, 7, 10,
wow,
and 13.
Good for him.
I think all those. And then he moved to chief umpire in the 35th Cup. Terrific guy. He's also taken the cure. He was a big boy. He's lost a lot of weight. He looks great. You can see in this picture.
Yep.
For the last couple of years, he's really thinned down, and that'll keep him healthy. We hope for a long, long time. We want him around because he is a terrific guy. Great to work with. Very funny. Lots of great sense of humor. Congratulations to both of them, and to Grant Dalton, because that was exactly the right decision. Bring those guys back, and I'm sure the teams were very happy with that as well. Which brings us to Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. I only have a couple of these because we're an hour and 40 minutes into the show. And the first one is courtesy of Monica Diaz. We talked about her. She loves we had the wine thing about, what wine day was it? It was the International Red Wine. Can't remember now. Late in the show, I'm tired.
Yeah.
And then she checked in because it's actually Spanish. It was it was Grenache is the French
Grenache.
name, and it's
Grenacho
or something in Spain.
Grenache.
And she sure enough loves her red wine, as most Spaniards do. She sent this. Ooh, I do love you. The lady is saying, is that wine talk? Is that the wine talking, dear? And she says, no, it's me talking to the wine.
Yes.
Sailing Illustrated, the drinking show with a sailing problem. Couldn't help it. Now, here's no relation to sailing. It was sent by our dear friend Chris Ray.
What?
How's the spaghetti?
Well, it's not bad. I mean, my mom made better, but...
The dog goes over there to see if the guy's okay.
Oh.
Chris Ray, thank you for sending that. That's just a little sight gag at the end of the show.
Oh.
It's pretty good, though, wasn't it, Julia?
Yeah.
And the other, we're talking Grenache. Yeah, thanks, Gordon Smith. Grenache, we got that, but I'm trying to remember what it was in Spanish. You're playing the Stingray. Were drugs or alcohol involved? Okay. Gordon Smith got a chuckle and Fritz Mueller out of that as we move ahead to the finish line. There's really nothing here to say except that our usual finish line. Friday, I'm pleased to report that we will have another of Alistair's awesome.
He already has it ready.
He's got a couple of them ready.
Yeah.
It's nice to have them in the can, as the film producers would say. And we will also have Ed Worley's latest. He's done a really cool one. I'm going to add a photo to it. He sent it this morning, and it's really cool. He's doing a great job. Thank you, Ed Worley, for that. Yeah. Julia, your witness.
Yes, please take this opportunity to like, follow, and share. Easy to do, and it helps everybody on every side.
And while we're at it, you should put your finger over your right shoulder and point to that painting over your right shoulder.
Oh, yes.
Your right shoulder. Right shoulder. Up. There you go. You're too high. Point.
I got it.
Down lower, just like this, Julie. Just point to that picture behind you. There you go, you got it.
It's reversed on the screen.
I know it is. That's why it's so much fun. And thanks to our friend, who came.
Yes, James Bond.
No. J. Frederick Bland. Our other Texas FOSI, United Airlines pilot.
Oh yes.
Ready? You think about it. You may have to go over and pick it off the door and look at the nice message that was behind it. And Barbara.
Yes, I know exactly who it is.
Okay. Like, follow, and share, as Julia was saying. Comments welcome, even in replay. We'd appreciate that very much. Those of you watching in replay, you're welcome to leave comments. And we'll go back and have a look at them, as we always do. Join us on Patreon, please. Patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. I appreciate that very, very much. And we do appreciate the humor and knowledge of everybody involved. And Ted Ryman has come up with it, Julia.
Oh, yes, Jonathan Frank.
Jonathan Frank and his wife, Barbara. And Jonathan, who is indeed a Renaissance man, painted that little painting for us of the, arguably the one of the crucial moments in the 2013 Cup here in San Francisco Bay. And he calls that painting Hydro. And when Dino Barker was shouting to his team because they couldn't get the wing to, when they tacked, and the wing didn't invert properly, and that's why they almost lost it, almost capsized. But that's it for us. We hope you enjoyed the show. We are back. We are going to do a show on Friday. We had a great time up at the Stag Crew, Julia, and I do hope that you all have a great rest of your week, including you.
Yes.
We're going to go to lunch with one of our FOSI tomorrow.
Yes.
Up north of San Francisco, and we will be back on Friday, same time, same channel. We hope to see you then, and in the meantime, we hope you can sail fast, sail safe, and have fun.
Yes.
Ciao for now. And all of you in Florida, we're thinking about you, praying for you, and stay safe.